In the bright heart of the Aurelia Kingdom stood the Crystal Palace, a structure so tall that its highest tower touched the clouds. The palace shone each morning with the light of 3 suns that circled the world. It was a place of beauty, filled with music, gardens, and laughter. Among all who lived there, none was loved more than Princess Mira. She was gentle, brave, and kind to every living being. She was the daughter of Queen Solara and King Darren, rulers who guided their people with wisdom and peace. From the youngest worker to the oldest scholar, everyone respected their royal family. Yet it was Mira's heart that made her the true treasure of Aurelia. Mira was not only a royal daughter but also a curious soul. She loved to look at the stars from her balcony at night. She often wondered what other worlds were out there, and if someone beyond the stars was also looking back at her. Her teachers said she had a gift for understanding strange technology and could learn new things faster than anyone in the palace. Many believed that one day she would become a queen greater than any before her, but fate had a different plan. One peaceful night, as the twin moons rose above the shining towers, Mira was seen walking through the royal gardens. The guards at the palace gate remembered her smiling and greeting them kindly. She carried a small book and wore a silver cloak, as she often did when she wanted quiet time to think. The next morning, her chamber was found empty. Her bed was untouched. Her cloak was gone. The royal guard searched every hall, every garden path, every corner of the palace. No one had seen her return. At first, the queen believed her daughter had gone for an early walk. She ordered calm and patience. But when hours turned into a full day, worry spread like fire through the palace. The king ordered the highest alert across the kingdom. Skyships rose into the air, searching every mountain and river. The royal scientists activated the ancient tracking crystals that could trace the princess's life signal. But the crystals stayed dark. No sound, no pulse, nothing. The people of Aurelia gathered in the capital square, waiting for news. The queen appeared on the balcony and promised that her daughter would be found. Her voice was strong, but her eyes showed sorrow. The next weeks turned into months, and still, no sign of the princess appeared. The royal guards found her cloak floating near the great river, but it held no damage. There was no clue of struggle, no mark of harm. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The royal court called upon the best minds of the galaxy. Explorers, seers, and engineers all came to Aurelia. Some believed she had been taken by outlaws who hid in the asteroid fields. Others whispered about the rift gates, old relics from the first age of stars, said to transport travelers through space and time. A few even claimed that Mira had chosen to leave, seeking the worlds she often dreamed about. The king rejected this idea, knowing his daughter would never abandon her people without reason. Still, no truth was found. Years passed. The kingdom changed. The queen's hair turned silver, and the king's shoulders grew heavy with age and sorrow. To honor their missing daughter, the royal family built a statue in the palace courtyard. It showed Mira holding a small star in her hands, looking upward as if ready to give it life. The statue's light burned each night as a reminder of hope. The people began to tell stories of her return. Children grew up hearing the legend of the princess who would come back when the kingdom needed her most. 100 years is a long time for hope to survive, but in Aurelia, it never faded. The descendants of the royal family continued to rule with fairness, following the ideals of the lost princess. The throne beside the queen's seat remained empty. Each ruler swore that no one would sit on it until Mira herself returned. The great historians kept her name alive in every record, and the Royal Academy studied her writings and journals. Mira's curiosity had inspired generations of explorers to reach beyond their stars. During the long century of waiting, Aurelia became stronger and wiser. The kingdom grew from a single world to a cluster of shining colonies spread across nearby systems. Its fleets were peaceful but powerful, protecting trade and knowledge. Humans from distant space sectors began to appear in their history books, though contact was limited. To most Aurelians, humans were strange and distant beings, fragile but creative, still learning to travel between stars. In the palace, the line of rulers carried Mira's spirit through her words. Her writing spoke of unity, courage, and kindness. Her last recorded message before her disappearance said, "The stars call not to divide us, but to remind us we are all small lights in a wide sky." Those words were carved above the main gates of the royal hall. Yet, despite the growth and peace, a quiet sadness always remained in the hearts of the people. Every year, During the Festival of Lights, the royal family held a ceremony in memory of Mira. Lanterns were released into the night sky, each carrying a message written by a child of Aurelia, thanking the lost princess for inspiring them. Some wrote dreams of exploring the stars, some wrote prayers for her return. Even after 100 years, her name still brought tears to the eyes of those who believed she lived somewhere far away. Unknown to them, deep beyond the edge of the known galaxy, in a forgotten sector of space, a silent beacon blinked faintly among drifting debris. It was old, almost dead, but still alive. The beacon carried an ancient royal symbol, one that had not been seen for a century. Its weak signal traveled slowly across the void, passing through dust clouds and fading stars. It whispered of a lost ship named Aurora Crown, the royal vessel that had vanished the same night as the princess. Back in Aurelia, a young student named Ryan worked in the royal archive. He was born a century after the princess disappeared, but he admired her story more than anything else. While studying old data records, he discovered strange energy readings from the edge of space. The readings matched the royal signal code that was believed destroyed long ago. He hesitated to report it, afraid it might be a system error. Yet something in his heart told him it was important. When he finally sent the report to his superiors, they dismissed it as background noise from old satellites. Still, Ryan saved the data. Each night he checked the readings again, and each night the signal became a little stronger. He had no proof, but he began to believe that somewhere the lost princess might still be alive. While he worked in silence, the royal family prepared for the next Festival of Lights. The queen's descendant, Queen Alira, stood before the people and spoke the same words her ancestor once had. She said that hope was the light that never dies, even when the night is long. Her words echoed through the crowd, and for a brief moment, everyone felt that the lost heir might hear them. Wherever she was, as the final lanterns rose into the sky, one of the royal astronomers noticed something strange on her monitor. A distant pulse appeared beyond the outer colonies, faint but steady. It was too structured to be a natural signal. When she adjusted the frequency, the code revealed itself in old royal form, the same pattern used by Princess Mira's ship. The astronomer's heart raced. She checked the records again and again, afraid it was a false match, but the data remained clear. After 100 years, the signal of the lost princess had returned. She rushed to the palace to deliver the news, her voice trembling with excitement. The royal council gathered through the night to confirm it. The signal's coordinates led to a quiet sector near the border of human space. No one could understand how a ship from their kingdom had reached so far. Still, the evidence was undeniable. The queen ordered preparations for an expedition. The fleet of Aurelia would once again set out among the stars to follow the light of the princess who had vanished long ago. As dawn rose over the shining towers, the statue of Princess Mira caught the first light of the sun. For a moment, the crystal eyes of the statue seemed to glow brighter than usual, as if reflecting something beyond the sky. The people looked up, unaware that the story of their lost heir was about to begin again. The news of the returning signal spread through Aurelia like light breaking the night. The royal halls filled with voices and footsteps as messengers hurried to deliver reports to the queen. Queen Alira, descendant of the royal line, stood beside the great window of her chamber, looking out over the shining towers of the capital. Her heart pounded with hope and disbelief. For 100 years the royal family had prayed for the lost princess. Could it truly be her signal returning after all this time? In the Grand Council chamber, the queen gathered the most trusted advisors and scientists of the kingdom. Among them was the young archivist Ryan, whose persistence had confirmed the signal. He stood nervously at the edge of the room as the council examined the data he had discovered. On the large screen, glowing in golden light, appeared the code pattern that had not been seen since the night of Mira's disappearance. It was clear, steady, and unmistakably royal. The code matched the one used by the royal ship Aurora Crown. General Terran, commander of the Aurelian fleet, leaned closer to the display. His voice carried both awe and caution as he said that if this was truly the princess's ship, it had traveled farther than any vessel of their people had ever gone. The coordinates placed it near the border of human space, in a system that was barely charted. He warned that the journey could be dangerous as the route passed through unstable space currents left from ancient wars. But Queen Alira did not hesitate. She said that if the lost heir still called to them from the edge of the stars, no danger was too great. Preparations began at once. Engineers and pilots readied a fleet of 5 royal ships. The flagship, named Starlance, carried the Queen's banner and was commanded by General Terran himself. Ryan, though young and inexperienced, was invited to join the mission. The Queen told him that it was his discovery that had rekindled hope for all of Aurelia. He bowed deeply, his heart filled with pride and fear. He had read about Princess Mira his entire life. Now he would travel across the galaxy to find her. As the fleet rose from the crystal docks of Aurelia, the people filled the streets to watch. Songs of hope echoed through the city as the ships lifted toward the stars. Children waved small flags bearing the symbol of the lost princess, a silver star cradled by 2 wings. For the first time in a century, the kingdom moved with one purpose: to bring Mira home. The journey through deep space was long and uncertain. The fleet crossed the edge of known trade routes and entered regions filled with ancient wreckage from forgotten wars. Strange radiation storms shimmered like ghosts, and old satellites drifted lifeless through the void. Ryan spent long hours in the observation deck, staring at the distant stars and thinking about the princess. He tried to imagine what she might be like if she was still alive. Would she be the same kind and curious girl the old stories described, or had time changed her beyond recognition? After 2 weeks of travel, the fleet reached the border of human space. The scanners picked up faint transmissions in human language, simple radio waves from small colonies and ships. Ryan had read about humans in history texts. They were newer to the stars, still learning the ways of faster travel, yet known for great bravery and endless creativity. The Aurelians had always watched them from afar, respecting their potential but avoiding direct contact. Now their lost princess seemed to have crossed into that very realm. General Terran ordered the fleet to reduce speed as they entered the coordinates of the signal. The energy readings grew stronger with each hour. Soon the long-range sensors detected a small vessel adrift near a blue and white planet. The vessel was old, its metal worn by time and radiation. It matched perfectly with the design of the Aurora Crown, the royal ship of Princess Mira. The entire bridge fell silent when the computer confirmed the match. After 100 years, they had found it. The Starlance approached carefully. Robotic probes scanned the vessel for life signs. To the shock of everyone on the bridge, 2 life forms were detected inside. One was Aurelian, perfectly matching the genetic pattern of Princess Mira herself. The second and third were human, smaller in size and with weaker energy signatures, possibly infants. The crew exchanged glances of confusion. None could explain why their princess would be in a ship with human children. The Queen's voice came through the communication line from the royal palace. She had stayed behind on Aurelia, but watched every image transmitted by the fleet. Her tone was calm but full of emotion as she ordered that the ship be brought aboard the Starlance for safe inspection. Teams in white suits entered the silent craft. The air inside was thin but breathable. Dust floated like silver mist through the still cabin. In the center, beneath a glowing stasis field, lay a young woman dressed in royal silver robes. Her face was peaceful, her hair shining like crystal threads. Beside her, wrapped in soft fabric, slept 2 tiny human babies. Their faces were calm and innocent, their small hands resting near hers. The medics confirmed that all 3 were alive, preserved by the ship's stasis field. When the energy system was carefully shut down, the princess stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open and she took a soft breath. The first sight she saw was a group of Aurelian faces staring in awe. Her voice was quiet but clear as she asked where she was. When the commander told her she was aboard a royal fleet returning to Aurelia, her eyes filled with wonder and confusion. Rian watched from behind the glass wall as she sat up slowly. It was hard to believe she was the same princess from the old paintings and records, yet she looked exactly as described. Time had not touched her. She seemed only 20 years old, though a century had passed. The 2 human infants beside her slept without fear, one clutching a small piece of cloth that looked handmade. The crew brought Mira and the children to the medical bay. Scans confirmed her identity without doubt. She was truly Princess Mira of Aurelia. When the report reached the palace, bells rang across the kingdom. The people filled the streets once again, crying tears of joy. The lost heir had been found. On board the Starlance, the princess was calm but thoughtful. She asked many questions about her kingdom, about the current queen, and about how long she had been gone. When General Terran told her the truth that 100 years had passed, she closed her eyes for a long moment. Her voice trembled slightly as she said she had thought only a short time had gone by. Rian was given the honor of speaking with her directly to record her first words for history. He sat before her holding a small recorder and asked how she had come to be with the human children. Mira smiled gently and said that she would tell everything once they returned home. For now she only wished to make sure the babies were safe. She cared for them as if they were her own. The medics confirmed that both children were healthy, though clearly human and not of Aurelian blood. The fleet began its journey back to the heart of the kingdom. During the voyage, Mira often stood by the observation window, watching the stars with the same wonder she had before her disappearance. Ryan noticed that her gaze carried both sadness and warmth, as if she held memories too deep to share yet. News spread faster than light across all Aurelian colonies. Every world celebrated. The royal historians announced the beginning of a new era, calling it the Era of Return. The statue of the princess in the palace courtyard was covered in flowers, and every light in the city burned brighter than ever before. But among the joy, questions grew. Who were the human children with her? Why had her ship drifted so far beyond their space? How had she remained young while 100 years had passed? These mysteries waited for answers, and everyone in the kingdom wanted to hear them from her own lips. As the fleet approached Aurelia, the people gathered by the millions to welcome her. The queen prepared a grand ceremony, the largest the kingdom had ever seen. The landing field sparkled with banners and music. When the starlets finally descended, a wave of light spread through the city. The doors of the ship opened, and there she was, standing tall and calm, holding the hands of the two small human children who walked beside her. The crowd fell silent in awe. To them, she looked exactly as the old paintings showed her. Yet her eyes carried the depth of a century of silence. Queen Alira stepped forward and bowed her head to the ancestor she had only known through stories. The princess returned the gesture and smiled softly. The queen whispered that the kingdom had never stopped waiting. Mira answered that she had never stopped dreaming of home. The people of Aurelia cheered, their voices rising like thunder across the shining city. The lost princess had returned at last, not alone, but holding the future of two worlds in her hands. The golden gates of Aurelia opened for the lost princess. Bells echoed through the crystal towers, and banners of silver and blue waved across the shining streets. The people gathered in numbers greater than any in living memory. Children climbed on their parents' shoulders to catch a glimpse of the royal heir, who had vanished 100 years ago. From every balcony and skybridge, citizens shouted her name. The music of joy filled the air as the royal guards guided Princess Mira toward the grand palace that had waited for her return. Queen Alira, descendant of the royal line, stood at the palace steps surrounded by the council. Her heart trembled as she looked upon the princess. Though history and portraits had told the story, seeing her alive before her eyes was something beyond belief. Mira looked unchanged, as if time itself had chosen to spare her. The same light that once filled the palace generations ago seemed to return with her presence. She walked gracefully through the crowd, her hands holding the two small human children who walked beside her without fear. When Mira reached the queen, both bowed their heads in respect. The queen stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on the princess's shoulder. She said that the kingdom had never forgotten her, that her name had lived in every heart for 100 years. Mira replied softly that she had never stopped dreaming of her home. Her voice was calm but full of emotion. The people watching could feel the warmth in her words. For them, she was not just a princess but a living symbol of hope returned from the stars. The royal celebration lasted for many hours. Great lights filled the sky and ships flew in patterns that painted images of the royal crest above the palace. Food, music, and laughter spread through the capital. Yet even in the joy, whispers moved among the people. They spoke about the two human children who never left Mira's side. Some wondered if they were survivors she had rescued, while others whispered of strange legends that spoke of bonds between species. The council decided to wait before asking questions. They wanted the princess to rest after her long journey. Inside the palace, everything was both familiar and strange to Mira. The halls were still filled with light and crystal, but many things had changed. New machines floated silently through corridors carrying messages and supplies. The gardens were larger, and statues of her memory stood beside fountains. The people bowed as she passed, tears shining in their eyes. Mira touched the walls softly as if greeting old friends. The palace had waited for her, and she could feel the heartbeat of her kingdom through its shining floors. The queen guided her to the royal chambers prepared for her return. The children followed, curious and silent. One boy and one girl, both human with dark hair and bright eyes. They clung to Mira's hands with trust and innocence. The servants brought food and water, but the princess chose to feed the children first. When the queen saw the care in her eyes, she asked quietly about them. Mira smiled and said that they were safe under her protection. The queen did not press further. She could see there was a story waiting behind those calm words. Later that evening, the council gathered in the royal meeting hall. They wanted to understand the truth of what had happened. Mira sat at the head of the long table, wearing simple royal robes. Her presence was calm but carried quiet strength. The scientists and historians presented their findings first. They explained that her ship, the Aurora Crown, had been found drifting near human space and that her body had shown no signs of aging. They said that according to the ship's records, only a few weeks had passed since she left Aurelia. Yet 100 years had gone by in the outside world. The queen turned to her and asked how this was possible. Mira looked thoughtful. She said that her ship had been caught in a strange wave of energy during her last flight. The wave had surrounded the vessel and carried it across stars faster than light. When she awoke, she had found herself near a small planet called Earth. Her ship had been damaged and she had no way to contact home. The air of the planet was heavy but warm, and she saw forests, oceans, and cities. It was a place full of life. The council listened carefully as she continued. Mira said that she had landed near a small settlement of humans who had never seen anyone like her. At first they were afraid, but when she helped heal one of their injured children using Aurelian medicine, their fear turned into trust. She lived among them for many days, learning their language and customs. They had little compared to the riches of Aurelia, but their hearts were rich with kindness. They shared food, stories, and laughter. They treated her not as a princess, but as one of their own. Rian, who sat quietly beside the scholars, felt his heart fill with admiration as she spoke. The way she described the humans was filled with respect. He had always read about humans as a race still growing, yet the princess spoke of them as equals. She said that they were curious and brave, willing to protect one another even when they were weak. She said that their strength did not come from technology or power, but from love and unity. The general then asked about the human children. Mira looked at them fondly before answering. She said that one night, her small human village was attacked by strange machines that had fallen from the sky. They were old war drones left from ancient times, still active and dangerous. The humans tried to fight but had no weapons strong enough. Mira used her ship's last energy reserves to destroy the machines, saving the people but losing the power to repair her vessel. Many lives were lost, including the parents of the 2 children she now protected. She promised those parents that she would keep the children safe no matter what. When her ship's emergency system pulled her into stasis, it had taken the children too, preserving them together through the flow of time. Silence filled the room after her words. Every member of the council could feel the weight of her promise. She had risked everything to protect those who had once protected her. The queen's eyes softened as she said that Mira had shown the true heart of Aurelia by valuing life over all else. The council agreed that the children would be honored guests of the royal family. Days passed and life in the palace adjusted to its new rhythm. The people of Aurelia celebrated in every city. Schools taught the story of the princess and the human children who had returned from the edge of time. Artists painted her portrait anew, showing her with the children beside her, symbols of hope between 2 worlds. The queen ordered that a special hall be built in the palace gardens to honor the moment of return. Yet, Mira often found herself walking through the gardens alone at night, thinking of the simple life she had shared with the humans on Earth. The stars above Aurelia seemed brighter, but they also felt distant. Ryan often joined her on these walks, carrying records and data for her to review. He noticed that she looked both happy and thoughtful at the same time. When he asked what she was thinking, she said that she had seen something in humanity that Aurelia must learn again. The ability to find strength in kindness, not just knowledge. One morning, Mira visited the Royal Academy, where young students trained to become explorers. The halls were filled with energy. The children looked at her with awe as she spoke to them about her journey. She told them that the universe was vast, but that no world was truly alone. She reminded them that understanding others was the first step to peace. Her words were simple but powerful, and they inspired everyone who heard them. The queen watched her from the balcony with pride. She could see that Mira's return had already begun to change the heart of the kingdom. Trade ambassadors began to send peaceful messages to nearby human colonies. For the first time, humans and Aurelians would speak as friends rather than strangers. The lost princess had brought them together without war or demand, only through compassion. That night, when the palace lights dimmed and silence covered the city, Mira stood by the same balcony where she once dreamed of other worlds as a young girl. Now she had seen them, lived among them, and returned with a story that would reshape the future. The two human children slept peacefully in their new chambers, watched over by gentle caretakers. Mira smiled as she looked at the stars. She whispered a promise that the next generation of Aurelians and humans would not grow apart. The future would belong to both. Unseen by the people, a small blue light blinked in the distant sky beyond the palace horizon. It was a signal from human space, a greeting message traveling through the void. The scientists detected it the next morning, carrying a simple code of peace from Earth. The humans had noticed the return of the royal ship and were reaching out to connect. The circle that began with a disappearance had now become a bridge between two species. Aurelia was no longer alone among the stars, and the name of Princess Mira shone brighter than ever before. Princess Mira had returned to Aurelia, but questions lingered in the minds of the council, the scientists, and even the citizens. How had she survived 100 years alone? How had she remained young while time passed for the rest of the kingdom? And most importantly, why were the human children with her? Mira knew the time had come to reveal her story, but she wanted to do so carefully. The truth was remarkable, and she needed the kingdom to understand not only what had happened, but also the courage and kindness of the humans who had helped her. One quiet morning, she invited the royal council and the queen to the palace's largest hall. The hall had been cleared and decorated with soft lights and greenery, creating an atmosphere of calm and focus. The princess stood at the center, her silver robes shining in the sun. The two human children sat nearby, playing quietly with small wooden toys that Mira had brought for them. The council waited in silence, curious and respectful. Mira began by speaking of her last days before she disappeared. She told them about the night of the royal festival, the evening when she had wandered into the palace gardens for a quiet walk under the twin moons. She remembered the beauty of the fountains, the music drifting in the air, and the soft glow of the palace lights. She had been thinking about the stars, wondering if anyone beyond them was thinking about her. Suddenly, her ship had been called for a mission to study a distant energy field near the edge of known space. She had gone willingly, excited by the prospect of exploration. The council listened intently as she described the journey. The Aurora Crown had traveled through regions of space that were rarely visited. Mira had discovered strange phenomena, including colorful gas clouds, drifting asteroids, and abandoned satellites from wars long forgotten. The logs of the ship recorded her observations, but then something unexpected occurred. While crossing a region known as the Silver Rift, a ripple of energy appeared before the ship. The rift was an invisible wave of cosmic power that flowed between stars, unstable and unpredictable. Mira had no warning. The Aurora Crown was pulled into the energy field, and the controls became unresponsive. Time itself seemed to twist. For Mira, only a few hours passed, yet outside the ship the galaxy moved forward a century. The council was stunned. Scientists whispered about temporal anomalies, but Mira continued calmly. She explained that her ship's protective stasis systems had activated automatically, slowing her body's aging and preserving life inside the vessel. It was a rare feature of the Aurora Crown, a secret designed for long voyages. The stasis had kept her alive, waiting for a chance to rejoin the world she loved. Then Mira spoke of the planet where she had awakened. It was a blue and green world, rich with water, trees, and mountains. The air smelled different, but it was safe. She had landed near a small human settlement, where the people lived simply. Their homes were made of stone and wood, and their lives were filled with the rhythm of work, care, and community. They were not advanced like Aurelia, but they were resourceful and kind. She told the council how she had first met the humans. One evening, while exploring near the village, she found a child injured by a fallen tree branch. Using her knowledge of Aurelian medicine, she healed the child. At first, the humans were cautious, unsure of who she was or what she intended. Slowly, they realized that she meant no harm. They offered her food, water, and shelter. Mira learned their language, their customs, and their ways. She did not arrive as a queen or a princess, but as a visitor who wished to help. Then came the danger. Mira explained that her ship had sustained damage during the rift, leaving her without the ability to call for help or repair it fully. One night, the settlement was attacked by ancient war machines that had fallen from orbit. They were remnants of a forgotten conflict, still programmed to destroy anything in their path. The humans tried to defend themselves but had no weapons strong enough. Mira used the Aurora Crown's limited energy to shield the village and destroy the machines. It was a risky action. The ship nearly lost power completely, but the humans were saved. Among the survivors were 2 small children whose parents had perished in the attack. Mira explained that she had promised the parents that she would protect their children no matter what. When the emergency stasis system activated, it preserved her and the children together, keeping them safe as she drifted across space and time. The council listened in awe as she described the bond that had formed between her and the children. They were not of royal blood, yet their courage, innocence, and trust had given her strength during the lonely years. Ryan, who had helped guide the fleet to find her, asked how she had survived emotionally for so long. Mira smiled gently. She said that hope had always been with her. The kindness of the humans had reminded her that life was worth protecting, that even in isolation, connections could endure. She spoke of their bravery and wisdom, how they taught her patience, courage, and love in the face of uncertainty. The council could feel the weight of her words. It was clear that her journey was not only a test of survival, but also a story of learning from others. The princess then described the moment when she first detected Aurelia's signal. The stasis field had preserved her near the outer edges of human space. The faint trace of Aurelian energy had finally reached her sensors. She had awakened fully, using the ship's remaining energy to make the journey back to her homeworld. Throughout the voyage, the children had remained in stasis, safe and unharmed. Mira had watched over them, ensuring that the promise she made long ago was kept. The council members were silent for several minutes. Even the queen seemed overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had heard. One of the scholars finally asked if Mira had any instructions regarding the human children. She replied that they must be welcomed into the kingdom, taught and protected. She wished for them to learn both the ways of Aurelia and the values of humanity she had observed. The children represented a bridge between 2 worlds, a living testament to the unity that could exist among different peoples. Mira's story also revealed the lessons she had learned. She told the council that strength was not measured by power alone, but by courage, kindness, and trust. The humans she had met had shown her that even those who seemed weak could become strong through compassion and cooperation. She hoped that her kingdom would remember this lesson as they continued to explore the stars, interact with other worlds, and guide the next generation. The queen spoke last. She said that Mira's journey was not only a miracle, but also a gift. Aurelia had gained wisdom, hope, and a renewed sense of purpose. The council agreed to create a program for human Aurelian exchange, allowing the knowledge of both worlds to grow together. Mira smiled at the idea. It would be a new beginning, one built on respect, trust, and unity. During the days that followed, Mira walked through the palace gardens with the children at her side. She taught them simple songs, showed them the stars, and told them stories of Aurelia's history. The children laughed and learned quickly. Their presence reminded everyone that courage could come in many forms, not only from royalty but from those willing to care for others. Ryan often accompanied them, recording the princess's stories for future generations. Word of Mira's journey spread across the kingdom and beyond. Artists painted murals of her and the human children, showing scenes of hope, bravery, and kindness. Scholars wrote accounts of the rift and her survival. The people understood that the princess had not returned merely to claim her place, but to teach them about the value of life, the power of trust, and the courage of ordinary beings. At night, Mira often stood on her balcony, gazing at the stars she had once dreamed about as a young girl. The kingdom was alive with lights below, yet the heavens called to her. She whispered to the children about the wonders she had seen, the kindness she had experienced, and the unity that could exist between worlds. She promised them that one day they would see the stars as she had, not only as explorers but as ambassadors of hope and friendship. The first signal from Earth had already been detected. a small message of peace and curiosity. Mira smiled at this. The humans had reached out, perhaps sensing that she had returned. The kingdom of Aurelia and the human colonies were on the path to meet for the first time in friendship. Mira had returned not only to her home but as a bridge between two species, carrying lessons of courage, kindness, and unity that would shape the future. The council, the queen, and the citizens of Aurelia understood that this was more than a story of a missing princess. It was a story of hope, of the strength found in kindness and of the unbreakable bonds that could form between worlds. Mira had returned, bringing with her the light of new beginnings. The children she protected were not only survivors but symbols of a future where humanity and Aurelia could grow together in trust and respect. For the first time in a century, Aurelia felt complete. The lost princess had returned, the truth of her journey had been revealed, and the foundation for a new era had been laid. Mira held the hands of the two children and looked at the stars, knowing that the lessons of courage and unity would guide them all toward a brighter tomorrow. The kingdom of Aurelia had changed since Princess Mira's return. The bright towers and crystal halls seemed more alive, reflecting the hope that had returned with her. Citizens walked through the streets with lighter hearts, and songs of joy and courage filled every corner of the capital. Yet Mira knew that her return was only the beginning. There was much work to be done. She had seen the kindness of humans, their courage, and their strength, and she wanted her kingdom to learn from these lessons. The two human children she had brought with her were now safe in the palace, learning the ways of Aurelia. Mira watched them play in the gardens, their laughter ringing like music across the city. Though they were small and young, their spirits were strong. She often thought of their parents who had trusted her to protect their children, and she felt the weight of her promise. Every step she took, every decision she made was guided by the oath she had made long ago. Queen Alira approached Mira one morning in the palace courtyard. She spoke softly, her eyes full of pride. She said that the kingdom had learned much from the princess's journey. The courage and compassion shown by Mira and the humans had inspired the people. The queen suggested that they build a special academy, where both Aurelians and humans could learn together, sharing knowledge, culture, and understanding. Mira's eyes lit up. She agreed immediately. The academy would be a place where the lessons of her journey would live forever. The construction of the academy began at once. Architects and engineers designed halls that floated among the trees, gardens that reflected the skies, and libraries that held knowledge from both worlds. Students, both human and Aurelian, arrived from far and wide. The children Mira had protected were among the first to enter. They were curious, intelligent, and kind, learning quickly from both their teachers and Mira herself. She taught them about the stars, about courage, and about the importance of helping others. As the academy grew, Mira spent her days walking through the city, speaking to citizens, and observing the changes she wanted to see. Markets became places not only for trade but for learning. Humans visiting from nearby colonies were welcomed with kindness. Aurelians listened and learned, discovering that while humans lacked advanced technology, they possessed ingenuity, empathy, and courage. Mira smiled each time she saw two worlds begin to understand each other. The council gathered often to discuss the next steps. Mira suggested creating missions to explore neighboring systems, where humans and Aurelians could travel together. These missions would not only chart new territories, but also build trust between species. The fleet was equipped with new ships, designed to carry both humans and Aurelians safely across the stars. Engineers from both worlds worked together, combining their knowledge and creativity. It was a remarkable sight. One evening, Mira walked with the children to the highest tower of the palace. The sun was setting, painting the sky with colors of gold, orange, and pink. She pointed to the stars, telling them that beyond those lights, countless worlds waited to be explored. She spoke of the humans she had met, of their bravery and kindness. She explained that true strength came from the heart, from caring for others and standing together in times of need. The children listened carefully, their eyes wide with wonder. Ryan joined them holding a small recorder. He asked Mira what she hoped for the future. She said that she wanted both humans and Aurelians to grow together, to learn from each other, and to build a galaxy where differences were celebrated rather than feared. She wanted children like those she protected to grow up in a world of friendship, curiosity, and courage. Ryan recorded her words, knowing they would guide generations to come. Meanwhile, messages from human colonies began arriving. Many expressed gratitude for Mira's return and for the protection of the children. Some asked to send ambassadors, teachers, and students to Aurelia to join the new academy. Mira welcomed them all. She believed that unity between worlds would create strength far greater than any weapon or power. The queen agreed, saying that the time had come for humans and Aurelians to meet as friends and equals. The two children grew quickly. Under Mira's guidance, they learned the language, customs, and wisdom of Aurelia. At the same time, they shared stories of humanity with their teachers and classmates. Their experiences, though young, carried the courage of survival and the kindness of those who had saved them. Mira often watched them play in the gardens, thinking of the world she had seen beyond the stars and how small acts of care could change everything. As months passed, the academy became a center of learning and understanding. Students traveled from distant systems to study together. They built models of planets, studied the stars, and learned both science and compassion. Mira visited often, teaching lessons not from books but from experience. She told them how courage could be found in the smallest actions, and how kindness could change even the most difficult situations. Her stories inspired everyone. One day, the queen invited Mira to the royal hall to honor her journey. Citizens from all over Aurelia attended. Mira spoke from the podium, her voice calm but strong. She thanked the people for waiting, for believing, and for learning. She spoke of the humans who had helped her, of the children she protected, and of the lessons of courage, kindness, and unity. When she finished, the crowd erupted in cheers. Lanterns were released into the sky, floating like stars, symbolizing hope and a future where both worlds could grow together. During the ceremony, Mira held the hands of the two human children. She smiled at the crowd and whispered to them that they were the beginning of something great. The children looked up at her, their eyes shining with trust and understanding. They did not speak much, but their presence alone spoke volumes. They were proof that courage and kindness could cross worlds, that hope could survive even the longest years, and that unity could create a new future. In the following months, trade and communication between humans and Aurelians grew. Markets, schools, and councils included representatives from both species. The lessons Mira had learned on Earth were slowly changing the culture of Aurelia. People realized that strength did not come from weapons alone, but from courage, trust, and friendship. Mira often watched these changes with quiet satisfaction. She knew that her century-long journey had not been wasted. The children she held, the humans she had met, and the kingdom she loved had all become part of a brighter future. Rian, ever by her side, recorded the progress. He documented the lessons, the missions, and the stories of students who had grown to understand both worlds. Histories were rewritten to include not only the adventures of Mira, but also the bravery of humans. The lessons of courage, kindness, and unity became the foundation for all new explorers. Mira often thought of her past, of the long journey, and the years she had spent waiting in stasis. Though the experience had been lonely and difficult, it had taught her the value of every life, every moment of care, and every act of courage. She shared these insights with the people of Aurelia, encouraging them to look beyond their own world, to seek understanding and friendship across the stars. The children grew older, learning to speak both human and Aurelian fluently. They trained with young explorers, learning the ways of navigation, communication, and diplomacy. Mira guided them carefully, teaching that true leadership was not about power but about service and care. Their presence became a symbol of hope for all Aurelians and humans alike. As the years passed, the alliance between humans and Aurelia strengthened. New ships explored distant worlds together, finding new resources, learning new sciences, and sharing culture and knowledge. Families and students from both worlds traveled freely, building friendships and trust. The lessons of courage, kindness, and cooperation spread across the stars, growing stronger with every generation. Mira often stood on the palace balcony at night, gazing at the sky. The stars were the same as she had remembered, yet now they held new meaning. They were no longer only lights in the distance. They were beacons of hope, friendship, and a future that had been built through courage and unity. The two children she had protected played nearby, now learning to reach for the stars themselves. She held their hands, feeling the promise of a brighter tomorrow in their small but determined grasp. Queen Alira came to stand beside her. She looked at Mira and said that the kingdom had never been stronger or more united. Mira nodded, knowing that it was true. The return of the lost princess had not only restored hope, but had created a bridge between two species, a bridge that would last for generations. The princess and the children had become symbols of courage, kindness, and unity that could not be forgotten.